Hey future me, it's me, David, from the end of 2016. What are you up to these days? Well, I've just come back from 2 months of interrailing around Europe, which was fantastic. My rest of my family have now moved abroad. Really? What, back to Germany? No, to Oman. Oman? Yes, Oman. Ooh, did you get into Oxford? No, I didn't. Have you got a girlfriend? You know what, why don't we talk about you, David, from end of 2016? How are things with you? Pretty bad, actually. Donald Trump has just been elected President of the United States, if you can believe. And earlier this year, Britain voted to leave the EU. Speaking of which, have we left the EU yet? No, not yet, but we're due to leave at the end of January next year. Oh, right. Who's the Prime Minister? You won't believe me. No. Yes. No way. Yes. Is it Jonathan Pye? What? No, you idiot. It's Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson? Yes, Boris Johnson, I know. I mean, it's not like he's ever going to win an election, though. He's literally just won an election with a massive majority. Oh my god, and is Donald Trump still president? He's actually just been impeached. Wait, so does that mean he's not president anymore? No, he's still president. Oh. Did they eventually build platforms 15 and 16 at Manchester Piccadilly? No, not yet. I actually started a campaign to get them to build them. And? Have you been successful? No. Wow, the future sounds really depressing. Could you at least name one good thing that's happened this year? It's difficult. One of my tweets about Brexit got featured in a Finnish news article. Huh, neat. Hello and welcome to the David Frankal Show end of year special, and what a year it has been. I've been here in Muscat with my family. We've just come back from a 3-night camping trip in the deserts and in the mountains. On the one hand, we saw some fantastic scenery, we saw the stars at night, it was lovely. On the other hand, I was reminded why I haven't been camping for 4 years, and I probably won't be camping again for at least 4 years after that. So let's take a look back at this year, 2019, the year I finished high school. I took my A-levels in history, geography, maths and physics. I walked out with 2 A stars in maths and physics, an A in history and a B in geography. Geography, of course, being the subject I'm studying at university because sod's law. As a result, I did sadly miss my Oxford offer, but I still made it into Durham University, which is an absolutely fantastic and well-renowned university, so I'm still very much a fantastic achievement, and I'm looking forward to getting started on my degree next September. This was the year of the Frexodus, where my mum and Noam flew out to Muscat to join my dad, who's been here in Oman since summer 2018. As such, we officially left our house of 11 years in Heald Green. I stayed for about a month with my cousins in London, then for 2 months I went interrailing all around Europe. I was then planning to fly from Budapest to Muscat, but I ended up going back to the UK for 3 weeks to fight the UK general election campaign, and after that I've come here. This has been an absolutely insane year in British politics, which all basically boils down to a quest to pass the Brexit withdrawal agreement in Parliament. Theresa May tried 3 times, failed 3 times and then resigned. Then Boris Johnson became Prime Minister. He tried to prorogue Parliament. Parliament fought back by passing the Benn Act, making it illegal to leave with no deal. The Supreme Court then waded in, ruling Boris Johnson's prorogation of Parliament to be illegal. Parliament then came back. Boris Johnson then came back from Brussels with a new and improved withdrawal agreement, which actually passed in Parliament, but not quickly enough, so a general election was called. At that point, nobody had a working majority in Parliament, so a general election was inevitable anyway. As we all know, the Conservatives won in a landslide. The withdrawal agreement has now been passed, so the UK will finally, officially leave the EU on the 31st of January 2020. Pro-Remain politicians have tried very hard this year to get a second referendum on Brexit, but have failed to do so. Labour, after flip-flopping for 2 years, finally adopted a second referendum as its general election manifesto position. The Lib Dems, on the other hand, got a little too big for their boots, abandoned the second referendum policy, and instead went for an all-out revoke message, which backfired massively. Meanwhile, former Labour and Tory MPs formed a new party called Change UK, which peaked in its popularity in the first few weeks, but had already become completely irrelevant by the May European elections. Come the general election in December, the party fought just 3 seats and lost all of them and is now officially shut down. Aww. This whole sorry saga has taught us 2 things. One, failing to put aside our differences to fight for a common goal means we all lose. And secondly, our country is badly in need of electoral reform. It is worth noting that Boris Johnson did not win a majority of the popular vote, but nevertheless won a massive majority of seats. With Remain officially dead, perhaps electoral reform should be the next thing that we all fight for, and maybe this time we won't let political tribalism sink a common aim. We can only hope. So Boris Johnson rules the UK for at least the next 5 years. In the meantime, the political declaration of the Brexit agreement has already had all the workers' rights and environmental guarantees stripped out, along with protections for child refugees. Kel's surprise. There were a lot of people saying that now that Boris Johnson has a majority, he no longer needs to pander to the ERG, so that's worked out well. So it has been a divisive year for the UK, but there have also been some uniting moments. For example, there was one moment where the entire country watched the exact same spectacular interview with Prince Andrew, where he claims that he can't sweat because he got shot at the Falklands War and suffered an adrenaline overdose, and that he couldn't be at a particular party because he was in a Pizza Express in Woking, and we all thought the exact same thought. This man is a massive liar. Across the Atlantic Ocean, America's own floppy-haired narcissistic autocrat has officially been impeached by the US House of Representatives after evidence that he phoned up the president of Ukraine asking him to dig up dirt on potential Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and then threatened to withdraw military aid if he didn't get it. This makes Trump the 3rd US president to ever be impeached, but the world is now learning that impeachment doesn't mean what we all thought it meant, because Donald Trump is still president. It just means a trial will now take place in the US Senate, which is of course controlled by a majority of Republicans, so there's very little chance that he'll actually be forced out of office. Even so, it is still a major symbolic victory. We can dream, okay? This year, climate change has fought its way to the front of political discourse, with schoolchildren across the world participating in climate strikes, including in my own home city of Manchester. These were inspired by Swedish teenager Greta Thunberg, who rose to fame this spring, and is now travelling the world on solar-powered yachts and electric cars to make speeches to the UN and rally climate strikers across the world. We've also seen the rise of Extinction Rebellion, which has a sort of suffragist-suffragette relationship with the climate strikes. Extinction Rebellion generally employ much more disruptive forms of protest, like blocking roads, blocking bridges, and sometimes rather counterproductively blocking public transport. But whether or not you agree with their methods, you have to admit that they have had a major effect on the world's politics, forcing politicians who've conveniently ignored climate change for decades to finally either confront the issue or out themselves as being massive arseholes. This year, the UK Parliament became the first in the world to declare a climate emergency, with the EU Parliament passing a similar declaration recently. The UK government has also been the first government to set a formal target of carbon neutrality by 2050. Many have, however, criticised the government for setting a target so late and not really providing any plans as to how to actually get there. But still, it is nonetheless a major step forward. So what have I been up to this year? Well, I started the year by stockpiling massive amounts of food and toilet paper in anticipation of a potential no-deal Brexit at the end of March. As it obviously turned out, that didn't happen, but it also turned out that we'd massively understocked, which doesn't really bode well. It has at least been an educational experience. In January, I launched the 15 Platforms campaign to try and get platforms 15 and 16 at Manchester Piccadilly built. They were supposed to be built at the same time as the Ordsall Court, which opened in 2017, but they weren't. Since May 2018, we've seen massive disruption through Manchester Piccadilly as a result of the lack of capacity. You can follow the campaign on Twitter at 15 Platforms. It also has a dedicated webpage. In March, I took part in a rally called Put It to the People in central London, demanding a confirmatory referendum on the Brexit deal. Estimates vary between 400,000 and 1 million people in attendance, potentially making it one of the largest UK protests in history. I also took part in demonstrations against Boris Johnson's prorogation of Parliament at the end of August and beginning of September. This year, I took part in school strikes in Manchester in February, March and July, Brussels and Luxembourg in September, and again in Manchester in November. In the strikes in Manchester, they do often invite people to come up and sort of make speeches, and so I decided to do one, and the BBC seemed to like mine, which is how I ended up headlining the news at 10.
Our science correspondent Victoria Gill reports now from Manchester.
We care about our future, and we demand that those in power care about it as well.
An Another Friday, another climate strike. And as the scale of this movement grows, its message is becoming increasingly urgent. Youth strikers are trying to put an impending environmental crisis at the top of world leaders' agendas.
I also saw but didn't really take part in Extinction Rebellion protests. They took over London in April. I went along to that, and I also saw them in Berlin. With all this protesting and disruption, many people often ask the question, well, these protesters are demanding that we all be more green. What are they doing to be more green? I could make an entire video about how this question fundamentally misses the point of these protests, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So look out for a new commentary video early on in January where I will talk more about that. But obviously, nevertheless, it is important for individuals to weigh up their actions. Of course, I've asked myself this question, and to be honest, I'm pretty bad. My main problem is flying, because obviously the rest of my family live in Muscat now. So actually in the last 2 years, I've been flying a lot more than I ever have before. And there's not at all that much I can do about it, because, you know, if I suddenly refuse to fly, then they'll just fly more to see me, and there's 3 of them and 1 of me. So that would actually make the problem worse. So it's a tricky one to solve. In other aspects of my life, I tend to be quite carbon conscious. I try not to rely on cars too much. I don't drive myself, but I try to use public transport and cycle as much as possible. The main change I've made this year is to try and cut down on meat consumption. I've been pondering going vegetarian for a long time, but the main problems with that is, 1, up until last summer I've lived with my family, and so I've not really had all that much control over what I actually have to eat. And number 2, it sounds silly, but there are just meaty dishes that I like too much that I just don't think I'd be able to resist if I were to go vegetarian. But what I realised was actually a lot of the meat I eat isn't like that at all. It's meat that I could quite easily cut out. So why don't I just cut out the meat that I don't care about and just only eat the meat that I particularly like? Which is exactly what I've done. So since August, I've started a new system where I try to limit myself to 1 meaty meal per week. And that forces me to think carefully about the meat I'm eating, only eat meat that's particularly nice. And at the same time, I've managed to make a massive cut to my carbon footprint from meat consumption. Honestly, it's been much easier than I thought it would be. It's actually turned out to be a very effective system. And if you are also facing a similar dilemma, then I would highly recommend trying out a system like it. But of course, individual actions like that are not going to solve climate change. The speed and scale of the action that needs to be taken can only come from government, and that's why these protests need to and will continue, and I imagine that climate change will continue to be a major political issue in 2020. Speaking of predicting the future, it's time to start a brand new round of Place Your Bets. This time we're doing a whole year, so we're looking ahead to the 31st of December 2020. Each of us gets 10,000 imaginary pounds to spend. So let's get started by meeting our contestants. I'm David Frankal.
Hiya, it's Adassa. I'm about to fail this round.
Hello, I'm Dan and I'm here on a bus in Budapest.
Hey guys, I'm Alistair.
Hey guys, my name's Joel Hardy. I'm on the David Frankal Show and I have a small YouTube channel. I make toy videos.
Hi, I'm Liam.
Hello, I'm Noam.
So, I'm Perz Borlaba, living presently in Muscat, Oman, as a housewife.
Hi, my name's Baron, and I'm David's dad.
Question 1. Who is the leader of the Labour Party? I'm going to put £4,000 on Keir Starmer.
Jess Phillips, £2,000.
There are too many political questions in here. I know nothing about politics. I'm going to put £2,000 on a woman.
I'm going to put it as Keir Starmer, and I'm going to say £3,000.
So I think the next Labour leader will be Emily Thornberry, and I'm going to place £1,500 on that.
I'm going to place my bet of 5,000 on Rebecca Long Bailey.
I'm gonna say Corbyn, and I'm gonna put £4,000 on that.
Rebecca Long Bailey, and I bet quite a lot on that, so I'll go for 6,000. And then 1,000 on the rest. 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000.
I'm channeling Jesse Phillips, 2,000.
Question 2. What is the latest Brexit update? My guess is that the transition period has been extended and that the Irish Sea border is now a major point of political contention. I'm betting £1,000 on that.
We're out of the EU, and Boris Johnson is currently trying to talk about a trade deal or doing something to do with about getting Brexit done. And I'm going to place 1,000 on that one.
I'm going to put £2,000 on there being that Boris Johnson has applied for an extension to the transition period after MPs have rejected his free trade agreement.
I'm going to put 2k on some kind of reversal. Either we're going to have another referendum and we're going to decide to remain, or we're going to do it and then we're going to be like, this sucks, please can we come back?
We will have gotten an extension to the transition period, and I'm pretty sure in that, but I'm not sure for how long, and I'm going to place £3,000 on that.
Johnson's probably found a way to make it not happen, and I'm going to put £2,000 on that.
I'm going to say there isn't one, because I'm going to say Brexit's done, finished, gone.
Oh, Brexit is still roaring on. Nothing ever happened, and the British public is more and more fed up with it and very close to rioting. For getting rid of the whole problem.
How much money?
2,000.
The transition period will be extended. I put £3,000 on that.
Question 3. What is Trump's latest tweet about? I'm guessing that Trump, having just won the 2020 election, tweets something basically implying that the president of Ukraine helped him win. And I'm betting £1,000 on that.
Oh, he's foaming his mouth about being impeached and taken off. Okay. He got re-elected and then he got put in front of a tribunal for lying, misleading, tweeting furiously about it. 2000.
Well, I hope that Donald Trump won't be president anymore, and so his tweets will be irrelevant, but I'm going to guess they're about his new TV series of what it's like to be president.
I want to say so badly that he's impeached and his Twitter is blocked, but I know that's not going to happen, so I'm going to put 2k on him saying something stupid about global warming again.
I'm going to place £1,500 on him being angry at the Democrats about how they lied or cheated in some way to make him lose the next election. Fingers crossed.
I'm going to say it's something to do with the Democrats meddling in the US election, and I'm going to put £2,000 on that.
Something to do with Brexit. I'm going to place 2,000 on that one.
Or how he won or lost the general election, and I'm putting £2,900 on that.
It'll be about the new president, which won't be him, and he'll be slagging him or her off. I put £500 on that.
Question 4. Which British politician has just made a complete arse out of themselves, and how? I'm guessing that James Cleverly, in an attempt to make some point about American food standards, eats some chlorinated chicken on camera and ends up getting food poisoning. I'm betting £2,000 on that.
Boris Johnson, for saying that the NHS isn't worth it, as that sounds like something he would say, to be fair. Come on, let's face it. And I'm going to put £100 on that.
I'm going to say it's Boris Johnson having to apply for an extension after saying he never would, and that's another £2,000 on there.
Obviously, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, about what? About everything. The NHS, about education, about police, whatever. The nurses.
You need to give an answer.
One answer. God, grief. Something about the NHS, yeah. For 2,000, yeah.
Boris Johnson, just by being himself.
Jacob Rees-Mogg for saying, if you're homeless, why don't you just get a house? And I put £10 on that.
All of the UK politicians are always a joke constantly, but after that 2 left shoe scandal, I'm going to put 2k on Corbyn, like wearing a stupid tie, like wearing the colour of a different party, or he's done a stupid knot, or it's like up here instead of like in the middle of the shirt, I don't know.
I'm going to place £2,000 on an old classic that the old Bojo has said something racist yet again, like he always does.
Jacob Rees-Mogg is going to say something stupid. I am going to place 1,000 on that one.
Question number 5. What is Piers Morgan angry about? I'm putting £2,000 on some company creating a gender-neutral version of Santa Claus.
I want to say he's angry at everything, but I'm going to put 2k on he's going to say something stupid about immigration.
And for the last question, I'm going to say that Piers Morgan is angry about what Greta Thunberg, I don't know how to say her name properly, has done or won an award or something, and he's going to be angry about that, and I'm placing £2,000 on that as well.
I am going to say that it's something to do with Extinction Rebellion holding protests. I am going to say £1,000 for that.
Losing his job on ITV, so I am going to place my final bet of 1,000 on that one too.
He's probably angry about Crossrail, and I'm putting £1,000 on that.
They've just created a new gender and added it to the dictionary, and I put the rest of my money on that.
Could be anything. Let's go with vegetarian burgers taking off.
He is angry about Donald Trump being removed from office for 2000.
So that was 2019 in a nutshell. Join me for the next episode of the David Frankal Show in Budapest at the end of January. Meanwhile, I'm now working on a new episode of Train News, which should come out in early January. Also coming in early January will be that commentary video all about the Green Movement and the right wing's effective technique of changing the subject. Meanwhile, I know I said I'd try to get the first Interrail episode out by the end of December. Obviously that hasn't happened. I still have to upload the Amsterdam video, which I've only just started. That'll come out in early January. So the first episode of Interrail probably won't come out until late January. If you don't already, please follow me on Twitter. This week's shout out of the week is Joel Hardy. Check out his channel over here. And this week's train spot of the week is one of Northern's brand new electric Class 331s. Thank you for watching, Happy New Year, and please subscribe.